everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the series of interviews I'm doing for the Rethinking Plastic online program. Today we talk about the topic how transportation packaging can play a key role in the transition to a circular and low carbon economy. I am with two people of the company Schoeller Allibert, Patrick Breukers, who is the Global Innovation Director, and Britta Wyss Bisang, who is the Global Sustainability Director. This company makes transportation packaging from plastics for different markets. And I want to start by asking Patrick to introduce a bit about himself and the company.
Okay, thank you, Iris. Maybe shortly then starting with myself, Patrick Breukers. I'm the Group Director of Innovations at Schoeller Allibert since 2013, with Schoeller Allibert already since 2005. I have my office at our technology center in Hardenberg. Our head office is in Hoofddorp. And I lead the innovation department, which is approximately 40 people large, and do NPD for the whole group. Then maybe Schoeller Allibert. Schoeller Allibert is inventing, developing, manufacturing, of course, returnable transit packaging for more than 60 years. And we are a large company because of a rich heritage that we had in the past, where we are, let's say, a gathering of Schoeller and Wavin and Perstorp and many Arca, many other companies that merged at a certain time. We have 12 production locations all over Europe. We have one in the US and one in China. We have more than 1,800 people. And we are present in more than 50 countries. And as I said, our head office is in Hoofddorp. In short, RTP, we are serving in 7 markets. Markets like agriculture, automotive, pooling, food, industry. And we do that with 10 product groups. And the 10 product groups that we have are, for instance, foldable large containers, foldable small containers, IBCs, those intermediate bulk containers for fluids, pallets, plastic pallets, but also handheld products like stack nest containers. So that's what we do, and that's what I do.
Thank you, Patrick, for introducing yourself and the company. So, having such a big company, it's extremely important to also think about your impact on the world and also sustainability. Every company has to think about it. And of course, if you have such a big impact as a company, it's really important. And we have Britta with us, who is the Global Sustainability Director at the company. So, can you please introduce yourself a bit, Britta, and also talk a little bit about your view on sustainability in this company?
Yeah, very happy to do so. So my name is Britta Wyss Bisang. I actually joined the company, much more recently this year in January, but I worked at the interface of sustainability and business, mainly in food and agriculture, but also some industrial supply chains for the past 25 years. And joining Schoeller Allibert, has several reasons. First of all, sustainability is a theme that we need to embrace in every single supply chain and every industry. And Schoeller Allibert is active in the returnable transit packaging, so the RTPs. And transportation and transit is something that is just, really present everywhere. Every product you touch, from the tea bag or coffee pod in the morning to, maybe a handkerchief in the evening, everything has been transported. Your mail has been transported, your computer spare parts, everything has been transported at one point in a box. And for Schoeller Allibert, we see that transportation packaging has a key role to play in the transition to a low carbon and circular economy. So what do I mean by this? Circular economy, for example, you just drank from a plastic bottle, right? That is a reusable plastic bottle. So I think that it's very important that in a circular economy, we have to understand the waste hierarchy. So it's reduce, reuse, recycle. And if all of these things don't work, we have to dispose of it. But reduce means reduce, for example, transport packaging, but also reuse it. So the returnable transport packaging, the food crates, if you go to the supermarkets, you take out your salad or your courgette out of a tray that is being reused instead of a single-use packaging that is then best recycled and worst burned. So yeah, that's maybe a bit of a long story, but so we have, I think the key words here for sustainability are circular economy and the role that reusable transport packaging can play in that. But also, this is the other big topic is, the climate crisis and the carbon footprinting discussion. So we have to see that our solutions have the smallest carbon footprint possible. So we're working that on the innovation side. But, there is also many studies that show that reusable packaging has a much more favorable carbon footprint, a smaller one, than one-way packaging. So I think this is one of the areas that we're trying to do more research, trying to actually optimize and trying to offer packaging for the future.
Yes, so you talk a lot about like this transportation packaging, and you sometimes hear from these products like a shirt that travels from one country to the other and goes like 3 times around the world before it ends up with the consumer. How do you relate to that as a company that allows transportation? What's your opinion on like this extensive transport that might not even be needed?
Yeah.
Britta.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so I do think we have to rethink logistics in general. And one aspect of returnable transport packaging is also, the shorter the way of transportation, the better. So I don't think it's only about in order to create a low carbon and circular economy, we cannot only stop at the type of packaging. We have to think of all the logistics systems. And our packaging has a role to play there, but it doesn't mean that, it should then be used to kind of circle the globe 3 times. And actually, also that doesn't happen very much. Our packaging is not really suitable for that.
And what I would like to say about it as the engineer here is that we can, of course, help our customers to be as efficient as possible with their transport. The packaging that we produce allow our customers to be as efficient as possible with their empty returns. So they have very good folding ratios, they have very good nesting ratios in order to have a very efficient return transport. We have in total 13 production locations, so that we can always produce as close to the customer as possible, so that at least the transport from our plant to their facility is as short as possible. We also do innovations so that our customers transport the least of air. Like everybody is really annoyed when they order a small product which comes in a very large box. Those are all things, all developments in which we help our customers to be as efficient as possible with transportation. You're on mute, Britta.
Yes, I saw. Thank you. So to what extent can you be an influence on this logistics and on this transportation part, which is actually also the responsibility of your customers? But is there a way that you think you cannot be of influence to have a positive impact besides making the packaging more sustainable? Maybe also an awareness thing or an advising role. Do you have ideas about that, and do you have plans in the future to to be more involved in that?
Maybe Britta can tell later something about how to put numbers behind that. What I can say about it is that the character of our company is sustainable by nature, because we produce multi-trip products, so not one-way products, which is by itself already a very sustainable way of working, of course. But besides that, and we can go later in depth into that if you find that interesting, but we design also with the purpose of repairing. We design with the whole recycling in the back of our minds, sustainability in the back of our minds. We have a huge effort in producing with circular plastics. So that's not only cradle to cradle, but because cradle to cradle is still, I'm producing with a virgin material, virgin polypropylene or virgin polyethylene, and at the end I can recycle it. But we also did very large studies and a lot of effort in producing already from the start with a circular plastic, like a post-consumer regrind and those kinds of things. So then we produce our returnable transit packaging. We produce it with material which were born as, for instance, a one-way shampoo bottle or a bottle cap. So then we are not even talking about recycling anymore, but we are talking about upcycling. And I think in that way we can have a huge impact on the whole environment, in which we take an inferior plastic that started out as an inferior plastic for a one-way usage and transfer it into a product that our customers can use for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, which in itself is very sustainable, of course.
Yeah, I also think that upcycling has a huge potential for many industries. And coming back to the cradle to cradle, I don't think they only start with virgin materials. I think it's possible to also use this upgrading part in the cycle of the cradle to cradle, since they have these two circles. One is like the one where you the technical circle, so you keep recycling it, and the other one is the biological circle, so you keep like composting something. But going also into this sustainability aspect, because I've read on your website that you're working also with consumer waste, and also you were talking about the shampoo bottles, and also that it's not possible yet to work only with this consumer waste, or just have a certain percentage of consumer waste. Why is it not possible to use this more?
We don't. If we produce with those kinds of materials, we don't want to serve our customers with a lower quality product, because a high quality product by itself already has a certain sustainability in it. If you produce a high quality product by itself, that is already very sustainable, because that crate or that pallet with very high quality will therefore also have a much longer lifetime than a pallet or a crate with a lower quality. And that's why we have such high quality standards. And there are certain streams of materials which just don't allow us to be used for 100% in that product, because we don't meet our very high quality standards in that.
And maybe to add to that as well, I think we're actually just at the beginning of that circular economy development and kind of revolution, because it's just a few years back that people thought, yeah, no, virgin plastic, it's the easiest, it's, no way to question, and that's easy to, we know the quality specifications and everything. And I also think that it is a misconception that people think, oh, the recycled, that's just waste that you're using. Actually, the most innovation in technology goes into making that waste suitable for those high quality products. And I think that will, if we want to reach the goals of the circular economy that also European Union has, we have to have better waste streams. We have to sort waste. We have to invest in making waste back, in upcycling waste to a high quality product. And we're just at the beginning. And that's sometimes a difficult story to tell, because people think, oh, you get that nearly for free, right? For nothing. So that must be a very cheap product. Actually, the opposite is true. The most time goes into testing and technology and innovation to actually upcycle that waste. And I think there will be some incentives needed also to move industries and supply chains and customers more into that direction, right? So this I think is important to realize.
Can you explain what kind of incentives there are needed for that, to make that happen?
Yeah, I can.
What I can say, Britta, maybe you can fill me in later or fill us in later. But one of the biggest incentives, of course, is residual value. If, for instance, a brewery uses a beer crate, and that beer crate he buys for a certain amount of money, after using that beer crate for 10 years or 12 years, there's still a very significant residual value in that plastic, because the plastic is not waste after that 10 or 12 years. That plastic has still a good residual value, and maybe that residual value has even gone up in those 10 or 12 years because the plastic has become a little bit more expensive, and therefore that brewery can use that same material again. We have also buyback schemes, buyback models in which our customers are allowed to give us back their products, and we convert them again into the same product or another product that they want us to. And therefore there's a very high residual value in those kinds of plastics, which are so well suitable for recycling.
Yeah. And I think, for example, target setting can be very helpful. What are targets? Because the targets move also companies to actually maybe change their mindset a little bit. We see this now, for example, in consumer bottles, shampoo bottles, that if you want to have the super bright white bottle, then it's very hard to get that with recycled materials, right? So, but if you set the target and then you also move the mindset of maybe accepting a slightly different color, So these are things that we have to learn, that maybe in order to achieve those targets, in order to move to a circular economy, we have to, I wouldn't say lower our expectations on color, we have to change them. We have to accept that maybe it is just a little bit different as the last batch. Is that really, really bad? Or is it actually a sign of, a next step and progress?
Yeah, and is this then the responsibility, or do you think this is a part of like the consumer that wants such a white packaging? Or is this maybe the company thinks that the consumer wants such a white packaging? Or is this, what is this idea of wanting this exact same color? Because mostly when I talk to people, they are not so much about having this specific color, but then in the stores you see things which are exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's very dependent on the character of the product, of course. Schoeller Allibert has a lot of business-to-business products which do not end up in the consumer market. So therefore, the color is by itself a little bit less important, but still there you see indeed that that there is a rather narrow bandwidth within the color which is allowed by the customer. I think it also has to do with awareness. That we have to make our customers aware. Listen, if you allow us to be a little bit wider in our bandwidth of the color that we are choosing, we are able to be more sustainable in our choice of material that we use.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the carbon CO2 emission discussion, you know, actually what you do see is that the effect that target setting by companies, because they have to meet certain standard, trickles down. So if, you know, maybe let's say a business to consumer company or a retailer or someone has set their targets to reduce their carbon footprint, they will kind of push that through their supply chain. So they will ask their suppliers of, you know, ketchup or whatever they're delivering in bulk, they'll ask them, so what is your carbon footprint? And they will ask us. And then we can also say, yeah, you know, this is the carbon footprint. We can reduce it further by recycled content, right? And you have to have this effect because people who are purchasing, they need to have those targets, because if otherwise they will just go just for, you know, specification and price. But we have to learn that, for example, a low carbon product has a value that is important to achieve. And I think by these kind of commitments by companies and that push through the supply chain really starts to work, right? And we get more and more questions about sustainability of our products. And for the time being, they're just kind of questions. But at one point, you know, suppliers will be selected on the sustainability profile that they can deliver.
Yes, that's it sounds like a nice development in these sectors, and also going through supply change, that there is some kind of change happening. Are there other ways to reduce these CO2 emissions in your products, except for having a wider color range, for example?
Many, I must say, and we're using all the tricks in the box. I must say, it has to do, for instance, with reducing the loss and theft by implementing RFID technology, by implementing GPS technology, those kinds of things. It has to do with.
So for the people who don't know these technologies, these are tracking technologies, so you can know where the product is.
Yeah.
Please go.
And with, for instance, an RFID tag, by using it well, you can also increase your efficiency of your pool much better. So normally a company would, for instance, need, let's say, 100,000 pallets to do all their transportation, but by using a GPS or by using an RFID tag, they can do the same traffic, the same service level with only 70 or 80 or 90,000 pallets. So that's also a form of sustainability, doing the same kind of traffic with less products. Another one is for instance, repairability. So please don't recycle every time your product when it doesn't have to. We have also developed products like our FLCs, our foldable large containers. We made them in such a way that where there is the most risk on damage, that we can very easily exchange that part, and we isolated that part into a very small part, so that you only have to replace that very small part instead of replacing the whole base. So that's good for the customer, and that's good for the environment. Only replacing a part of that product which is only a few grams and therefore also a few euro cents, instead of having to replace half of the product or whole of the product. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to end this interview, I want to end with one last final question, and that is, what is your most ambitious dream in the sense of sustainability for the company? Maybe you can both shortly answer this question.
Okay, my most ambitious dream, I think, is to be able to say we're fully circular, and everything is actually recycled. So, because now we can recycle everything we're getting back, but we want to close that loop fully. And that is quite an ambition because the products are actually circulating for a long time. But I think in the future, we want to have a complete overview of the circular flow of all our products, how they're coming back, how they're being recycled and reused, and have a super low carbon footprint. Yeah.
Thank you, Britta. Patrick, do you want to say something about this as well?
Yeah, for me personally, I must say that as the responsible for innovations, we in the past we already have caused some revolutions within our industry in terms of our foldable large containers and IBCs. But if I really look what's going on now, and it has been even amplified by COVID, is of course the e-commerce, and what I really have as a personal target is to create, to innovate, make such a nice new product in the e-commerce industry that we can get rid of all those much too large boxes with those very tiny products in there, and that box that you have to throw away later. So that's really an ambition that I'm having for the future. But that's a very high target to be to say. It's not easy to reach, I think.
That's why I was asking for both of you your biggest dreams, because it's nice to set the bar high and then take little steps in order to get there. And then I want to thank you both very much for this interview. I've learned a lot about your company, and it was really interesting to talk to you. So thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting us, Iris.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I have to say that Patrick's dream was even more ambitious, you know, from a from a consumer point, because I think on the circularity we're doing a lot already. We're very close to that closed loop. But as a consumer, having to throw away all these carton boxes, or that I'm just actually really joining in Patrick's dream as well.
You can help me with that, Britta.
Yeah, I'll try. Right. I'll do my best.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
So yes, this was the last interview of this series of interviews with companies that are part of the Rethink Plastics initiative. So next time you will see another series of interviews and another concept. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.